Whatever happened to MSNBC? Rach Maddow, Jen Psaki, the Wicked Weave, Keith Olbermann around the bend, waiting to be let back in. Everywhere you look, everywhere there's no truth or honesty, they hire based off of diversity. What an embarrassment. I mean, this is absolutely embarrassing. As if we didn't already know that this network was full of propagandists. As if we didn't already know that MSNBC was allergic to the truth. I guess Ari Melber felt the need to reinforce the point that MSNBC not to be trusted. Gather round, kids. Let Uncle Casey give you a valuable lesson, especially those who are looking for a career in media. And I want Ari Melber to pay very close attention to this valuable advice, because maybe, just maybe, it will save him some future embarrassment. Back in the late 1800s, a French inventor named Louis Le Prince, he invented the first camera that was capable of capturing moving images. Now, these devices are very widespread today, with most people carrying them in the palm of their hand. It seems there is some confusion, though, amongst woke welfare collectors at MSNBC as to what these powerful devices are capable of doing. You see, not only do cameras have the capability of capturing live images, they also have the ability to record audio, meaning the words that you are speaking on camera, once that footage is uploaded to social media or the internet, it is there forever. So if someone is quoting you, if someone is criticizing you based on something you said on camera, probably not a good idea to deny it. And it's damn sure not a good idea to threaten them with a lawsuit. If you haven't already, make sure to like and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter at KC_BTL84. How many of you guys are familiar with Ari Melber? I'll be honest with you, I was surprised to find out that Mel had one of, and sometimes, the most watched show at MSNBC. Clearly, the MSNBC audience enjoys a double dose of the shit sandwich, because that's what Ari Melber is serving them every night. He hosts a show called The Beat. Now, I'm not entirely sure what Ari Melber is beating. Maybe it's the huge embarrassing failures at CNN and the ratings. The show title, it could be a reference to personal habits. The one thing I know for damn sure, he ain't beating Fox News in the ratings. But credit where credit is due. Ari Melber must be doing something right, because he is one of the biggest ratings draws at MSNBC. He is the lead-in for the Wicked Weave Joy Reid. Every night, Ari Melber, he generously hands the bundle of joy about 1.5 million viewers. And after a few seconds of exposure to wickedness, about 500,000 of those viewers change the channel. Last night, Ari Melber, he was interviewing Corey Lewandowski. Corey Lewandowski was an advisor on the Trump campaign back in 2016, and he's working with the Trumper again during this election cycle. After the first night at the Republican convention, which was days after the attempt to eradicate the leader and the only member of the Orange race, the New York Times, they published an article claiming that Trump was his own biggest prop at the Republican convention. The New York Times pointed out the fact that he entered the VIP box, which should be reserved for deacons at Woke United Methodists who were attending the convention undercover. The Trump was seen wearing a gigantic white bandage. That is obviously a virtue signal to the white man, because if Trump truly cared about black people, he would have worn a black band-aid. Ari Melber was a part of MSNBC's pretend coverage of the RNC, and I call it pretend coverage because they tried to trick their naive viewers into thinking they were actually there. At least CNN had the courage to propagandize live from the RNC. Ari Melber, he was sitting inside the NBC studios in New York City with one of the worst backdrops imaginable, pretending like they were actually there. I guess they couldn't afford to fill the tank in Joy Reid's climate-friendly broom to fly from New York City to Milwaukee. During MSNBC's pretend coverage of the convention, Ari Melber, he quoted this article from the New York Times, but he ended up adding his own verbiage to the quote. No big deal, right? I mean, I do that all the time. Hell, I just did it. This happens all the time. You reference something from an article and you add your own opinion to it. Apparently, Fox News did a segment on Ari Melber's comments, and it triggered feelings of anger and bitterness. He is accusing Fox News of misquoting him by using his own words, and he is insinuating that this is defamation by mentioning that Fox News has already been involved in defamation cases in the past. Last night, he invited Corey Lewandowski on his show, I think to discuss the election, but the conversation, it quickly shifted towards his accusations of defamation against Fox News. Watch for yourself.
I quoted a New York Times article that said, at the convention, Donald Trump was his own biggest prop. It was a New York Times quote about how he had become such an important figure in rebounding from what was a horrific assassination attempt. Fox News, which Corey, I said I'd address it. I'm going to finish. Fox News, which has been caught in defamation, ran a false piece, falsely stating that I said something else that I didn't say. So I stand on that. I stand on the New York Times
quote. So you
quote.
didn't say this bandage was a prop, a spectacle from a candidate who's obsessed with spectacles.
Mr. Lewandowski, I did not say that. That is a false quote.
Right here. It's clear.
What you have is a false quote.
What
you have is a false quote. And I'm putting you on notice, if you continue to repeat falsely that I said that, you will be potentially in a defamation situation because I didn't say that. But I understand that you're working off the internet, which is a lot of false information.
I'll give Ari Melber some credit here. If you're naive, if you're uninformed, if you don't realize you're watching MSNBC and you think you're watching a network that is not allergic to the truth, Ari Melber, he can be very convincing. Apparently, he was a skilled lawyer before applying for woke welfare at MSNBC. Those graduate-level manipulation courses at Woke U, clearly they paid off. Ari Melber, he was adamant that he was being misquoted. He was adamant that Fox News was spreading false information about him, and Corey Lewandowski was an accomplice in this conspiracy against him. You're relying on information from Fox News, a network filled with known liars, and you're relying on false information that you pulled off the internet. You can't trust anything on the internet. You can only trust me and MSNBC. There's just one problem here for Ari Melber, one small problem. Even though the backdrop was fake during their pretend coverage of the RNC, the camera was real, and the camera recorded exactly what Ari Melber said about the Trumper. Watch for yourself.
This bandage was a prop, a spectacle from a candidate who's obsessed with spectacles.
That's fair. A placard for delegates to fill in, an image for political mobilization, a spectacle for this candidate who we know is, by his own admission, obsessed with assorted spectacles.
Ari Melber, were you the geek in high school? I mean, you don't look like a super nerd. You don't look like you were getting stuffed into lockers. But I get the feeling that you were the kid in class that was snitching on everyone else. Why is your first line of defense to threaten a defamation lawsuit? Really? Someone says something you don't like and you threaten to sue them? I hate lawsuits, especially frivolous lawsuits, because the only thing that happens after a lawsuit, the rest of us end up paying for it. Woman sues McDonald's because coffee is hot. We end up paying more for coffee. Because now, McDonald's, they have to add a warning label to every cup, alerting potential coffee drinkers to the fact that coffee is indeed hot. I wish Ari Melber would go through with this lawsuit because he would lose. I'm trying to give him the benefit of the doubt here because I know nothing about Ari Melber. If this were someone like Joy Reid, I would automatically know she's full of shit, but I'm trying to give Ari Melber the benefit of the doubt. It is entirely possible that He just forgot what he said that night. I forget what I say on camera all the time. I'll receive emails from people quoting something I said 2 or 3 days ago, and I gotta go back and check to see if I actually said that. Maybe Ari Melber simply forgot what he said and he was caught off guard on live television. But I'm having a very hard time believing that because it looks like Fox News ran this story on July 17th. What was that? 6 weeks ago? That is more than enough time to do your due diligence and check what you actually said. I'm also having a hard time believing Ari Melber because he works at MSNBC, a network that is known for, well, let's just call it spinning the truth to fit their narrative. I find it ironic that Ari Melber accused Corey Lewandowski of relying on false information from the internet. Ari Melber's right. There's a lot of false information online. I receive stories from viewers all the time. On the surface, they seem controversial and legitimate. As soon as I start researching them, doesn't take me long to figure out it's just another shit sandwich. There is a lot of propaganda on the internet. I just think it's ironic that the mainstream media, they constantly feel the need to point it out to us. And they mainly like to accuse Twitter of being the biggest offender. It's another classic case of projection because you can make the case that the mainstream media, they are the biggest offenders of propaganda. Remember the illusion of Russian collusion? What was one of the leading networks that was pushing that story? MSNBC. Remember the infamous laptop story, which I believe the New York Post was one of the first to release that story publicly? According to Mark Zuckerberg in his letter to Jim Jordan earlier this week, the laptop story, that ended up being accurate. 4 years ago, the media, they chose to bury it. And if you had the audacity to talk about it, the media, they would accuse you of being a conspiracy theorist. What about the cognitive decline of Johnny B. Biden? Which, by the way, has anyone seen our former fearless leader lately? He is still the president, right? Other than his speech at the convention, which was delayed until most people were asleep, it feels like we haven't seen Johnny B. Biden in months. For 3 years, the mainstream media tried to convince us that we were stupid. They tried to convince us that what we were seeing with our own eyes wasn't real. They tried to convince us that Johnny B. Biden was lucid for at least 6 hours a day and 8 hours on a good day. He's just camera shy. He gets nervous speaking in public. Behind the scenes, John Biden is the smartest man in the room. He's the only guy in the room. Stop paying attention to those pesky details. We have a narrative to push. What happened after the debate? The media turned on John Biden and they started pushing Cam Harris. The same Cam Harris that they were claiming could be potentially replaced as vice president. So forgive me, Ari Melber, if I'm skeptical. Forgive me if I'm having a very hard time giving you the benefit of the doubt. I have a list here that I keep on my desk. This list has never failed me. I rely on this list when determining who to believe. And I look down this list of people I trust. Ari Melber, MSNBC, you ain't on it. But give me your thoughts on this. Ari Melber from MSNBC busted in a blatant lie. Anyone surprised by this? Anyone surprised by someone from MSNBC being busted, not telling the truth? What do you guys think of Ari Melber? Me personally, I don't know much about him. His ratings, though, very impressive. But let me know what you think about him. Sound off in the comments below. Like, subscribe, share the video. Appreciate your support. Best way to contact me is by email at btlkc84@gmail.com, and I'll see you guys later.